mind. Why research? Like immediately we just entered into and we have not taken such kind of a branch. Okay, we have taken admission in orthodontics, we have taken admission in conservative or some other branch. Why research? So first of all, to introduce my topic, why research is, first of all, your first paper that you need to give after the end of your first year is your research methodology and your basics. Okay, so 50% weightage goes to research methodology and biostatistics. That's why you need to know everything about research methodology. Second thing, within 6 months of your curriculum, you have to decide about your thesis topic. Okay, whatever research you are gonna do in your PG curriculum. So to find out that, you need to know about the research. Then only you can choose a topic. That's why I've taken this topic to just introduce you to this subject. Okay, so research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. Now what does this mean? Everyone sees everything but nobody actually knows what is going around. Okay, for a small example I can give you about the Newton. Like before Newton also, there are many apples which have fallen, right? But nobody thought why this apple has come down and it has not gone up. So Newton was a person who actually thought in that particular way, right? So he had that vision. So we are here to develop that vision and to make you as a researcher, which is a part of your curriculum. Okay? So this is my topic. I will be discussing it. What is research, categories of research, health research that we are actually dealing with, then steps in research, then conclusion and question answer session. Okay, it's a small session, so you need not have to worry about it. There is no marks or something about it. So to start with, what is research? Research is a quest for knowledge through diligent search or investigation or experimentation aimed at discovery and interpretation of new knowledge. So it's again and again, if you go to review the literature, again and again if you learn something, you find out there is some dearth, there is some problem in that research which is not connecting to our day-to-day life. So what is that problem? That is what your research topic is. That problem is your research topic. So you have to see that problem and you have to formulate some kind of a research which will answer to that particular question to you. Okay, so there are some categories of research. The very first is empirical and theoretical category. So what do you mean by empirical category is, it is done based on observation and experiences. Involves measurement of variables, estimation of popular parameters and statistical analysis. So this is the healthcare research we're talking about, where we have some observation, we go to community, we see some patients, we see some different things, and then we think, and then we take some data, we put it into statistical analysis and we come to a conclusion. This is an empirical research which is normally seen in healthcare system. Second is theoretical research, just based on theory. As the name suggests, it is done based on theory and abstraction. Involves more of imagination and application mathematical abstraction. So this is generally done in mathematics, not in healthcare research. There is another category which is basic research and applied research. So what do you mean by basic research? It involves a search for knowledge without a defined goal or utility or specific purpose. Like I have given you an example of Newton. Newton did not have any purpose. He was not doing anything about gravity. He just thought there is something which is making this apple fall. Okay, so that was the basic research. So once he found out the principle of gravity, on that we have some applied researches. On that purpose, we have some applied researches. With that knowledge of us, we can have some more researches. What are that? That is problem oriented, direct towards a defined or purposeful end. Frequently generated by a perceived need and is directed towards the solution of an existing problem. So what was the problem? That we wanted to have some satellite into space. Now we know there is a gravity. So we should know how much force we should apply into the rocket so that it can go into the space by defying the gravity. So it is applied research which was done on the basic research which was on a principle of gravity. So this is the second category. Now the applied research is again has two parts. That is primary research and secondary research. Now what do you mean by primary research? Basically where the investigator actually goes into the population. He actually collects the data from the subject, okay, then analyzes the data and finally comes to the conclusion. So investigator actually interacts with the subject. So that is the primary research. That's why it is known as primary, because the data is first-handed. Okay, so examples are surveys, observational studies, case control studies, cohort studies, clinical trials. What is secondary research is the data is already available from some hospital, some data banks, World Health Bank. Data is already available. Now we have to take that data and we can directly put some statistical analysis and come to some conclusion. That is a secondary research, because the investigator is not reaching that subject. It's just getting that data. That is a second-hand data. Data has been already collected by somebody else. So this is a secondary research. So the given example is decision analysis, operational research, evaluation of health system, economic analysis, qualitative research, and reviews and meta analysis. Okay. Then the third category is confirmatory and exploratory research. Confirmatory research, it tests a priori hypothesis. What do you mean by a priori hypothesis here? The hypothesis has been already laid down. The hypothesis is already there. For example, if I am preparing a new mouthwash, okay, a herbal mouthwash, as I know, the chlorhexidine mouthwash has some disadvantages, right? It can discolor teeth. Okay, so I am preparing a herbal mouthwash and I suppose that my mouthwash is better than chlorhexidine mouthwash. So this is my hypothesis. This is my assumption. This is my presumption that my mouthwash, whichever I have made, is better than the chlorhexidine, which is a gold standard. So this is a hypothesis. If you test this hypothesis with the help of experimentation, it will be a confirmatory research. The second is exploratory research. So confirmatory research generally we do in analytical studies and in experimental studies. We'll be going to study design later on, but I'm just putting some words into your mind, okay? So analytical study and experimental studies are confirmatory research. Whereas exploratory research, now what is exploratory research? It seeks to generate the post priori hypothesis. Post priori means everything is collected first, data is collected first, and hypothesis is laid down later on. Okay, normally in descriptive study, we actually do descriptive studies or surveys for this only. We collect the data and later on we form a hypothesis. Later on, with the help of the data, we say yes, this might be the cause of this particular disease. So this is a post priori hypothesis. It is easier to make new discoveries, flexible, and it saves time. Okay, this is all about the category of the research. Now, what we are more interested in is health research, since we are in healthcare industry. So what is health research? All the research in the field of health, may be basic or applied, empirical or theoretical, is classified under three operational categories. First is biomedical research, second is behavioral research, third is health research, health service research. Okay, the very first is biomedical research, which is generally not done in an individual, it is done in a laboratory. New formulation of new molecules, formulation of new vaccines, formulation of new medications. Okay, that is your biomedical research. Second is behavioral research. Nowadays we know there are less of infectious diseases. With the era of antibiotics, many of the infectious diseases have gone down. But at the same time, there are some modernized diseases. Like we say, hypertension, okay, diabetes, there are some cancers, mental diseases. Why these all diseases there? When we find out everything lies in a behavior or a particular lifestyle or a particular habit of a person. Okay, so these are called as behavioral diseases or the modern time diseases. That's why this research is there, which searches on why this kind of a behavior is there, how can we change such kind of a behavior, and how can we inculcate a proper behavior in that particular person so that we can have a positive results. Okay, that is your behavior research. Then health services research. So, since every country have some policy, okay, they provide some particular services to their community or to their country. So whether this, whatever they are providing, whether it is reaching or not properly, what are after effects or side effects. So this is all done with the health service research part. Now that is all about just introduction of the research. This is the main part, that the steps. How do you start with your research topic, what you're going to do, how do you write a protocol, and how do you collect the data, and finally how do you interpret ultimately and to have a publication. So that is the main topic. So I'll start one by one. That is, first is identifying the problem. As I have already told you that you have to go to the literature, you have to search for many facts, you have to talk to your guides, you have to have many journals besides to find out what is the problem in that literature. So if I am going to some community, if for example, if I am finding something like in this community there are more people who are having more dental caries, okay, so that is my problem. That is my problem. Why this community is having more amount of dental caries as compared to other communities? Okay, so this is my problem. Now I have found out my problem. Yeah, this is my problem. So I'll convert it into a research question. The very first thing is to formulate a research question. Once you have found a problem, you can convert it into a research question. As I've given you an example of a herbal mouthwash. Okay, so say my herbal mouthwash, I say my assumption is my herbal mouthwash is better than chlorhexidine mouthwash. So what will be my research question? Is my herbal mouthwash better than the gold standard mouthwash, that is chlorhexidine mouthwash? That will be my research question. Everything starts with that question. That whatever I have made, whether it has equal efficiency, equal efficacy as compared to gold standard, whatever is there. So that is my research question. Okay, whether whatever I am doing, why this community is having high amount of dental caries, why whether whatever I have made a new herbal mouthwash, whether this mouthwash is better than chlorhexidine mouthwash, which is a gold standard. So this is about the research question. Okay, it comes from experience, review of literature, existing theories and beliefs, and from the previous search. So this research question should be based on some criteria that is called as FINER criteria, which is the most important thing. Everything from this FINER should be followed to called a research question as a good research question. So what do you mean by FINER? F is feasible. Feasible as in whatever research you are thinking of should be feasible. Now feasible means not only financially, okay, not only financially, but you should have enough manpower to conduct that research. Okay, third thing is your curriculum is only about 3 years. You cannot just have a research which goes on and on for 10-12 years. So you should find out a research or modify your research in a such a way that it should be winded up by 2 or 2.5 years. So these are the feasibility criteria, whether these kind of tests are available to me or not. Material is available at this point to me or not. So everything you have to think beforehand before going for a research. That is a feasibility of research. Second is I, that is interesting. That topic should be interesting. Okay, if the topic is not interesting to you, you cannot put your 100% into that topic. Okay, you will be just working as a mechanical person and you will be just losing that interest and you will be just putting some numbers and just finishing it off. So think about it. You should have an interesting topic on which you want to work. Okay, then only you can make other understand what exactly you want to do. Okay, third is a novel. That means it should be a new topic. For example, we know that fluorosis decreases caries. So this fact has been established long back. Okay, again and again I cannot do a different experiments to just prove that fact. It is of no use. It will be waste of all the resources, manpower and finances. So your research topic should be new, which will provide a new thing to the society, which will provide a new knowledge to this society. Okay, then the ethical. E is ethical. Whatever you are thinking of doing should be ethical, should not harm somebody, should not put bad things on somebody. Okay, it should be ethical. If you are not doing bad, if you are not doing good, at least don't do bad to the community. Then it should be relevant. It should be relevant to the subject you are studying. It should be relevant to the community. It should be relevant to the institute. Everything should be relevant. If you are doing irrelevant research, it will be of no use. Okay. Then hypothesis. Once you have a research question, you have to convert it into a hypothesis. So hypothesis is basically, it is defined as a presumption. Suppose to be converted into a hypothesis. So it's a statement. Hypothesis is a statement. That's my assumption that whatever herbal mouthwash I have prepared, that is better than chlorhexidine mouthwash. Okay, so this is hypothesis. This is my hypothesis. I am saying whatever I have prepared is better than what was there in past. Okay, so this is my hypothesis on which I am gonna work. Now in statistics session, you will know how we convert this hypothesis into null hypothesis and how actually we accept and reject this hypothesis so that we come to a conclusion. Okay, so my part will be in here only that what is hypothesis? We just convert a research question into a hypothesis. Once you come to hypothesis should have a defined population. For example, if you're a PG in pediatrics department and if you're doing a research on nursing bottle gates, your population is defined. Okay, only till 5 years of age. Only till 5 years of your age, because you are working on nursing bottle gates. So your population should be defined for that particular research. Or if you're doing something on pregnant women, then also your population is only defined to pregnant women, right? You cannot take each and every person into your study. So that is your population. Second thing should be there should be a suspected cause. There should be a suspected cause. For example, if we take example of cigarette which is causing lung cancer. So cigarette will be my suspected cause. I am suspecting that smoking cigarette is causing actually lung cancer. So my cause which I am thinking of, which I am working on is cigarette. Right? The expected outcome, lung cancer. Lung cancer is my expected outcome. That means if a person is smoking cigarette over a period of time, he might have lung cancer. So that is my expected outcome, which should be there in your research question as well as your hypothesis. Right? The dose response relationship means how many cigarettes a person should have to develop that disease. Now dose response relationship and time response relationship always is not known in every hypothesis, but first three things you should always have in your hypothesis. Okay, so dose response relationship means how many cigarettes I need to have to develop that cancer, or for time response relationship, for how many years or for how much time or for how much duration I should have cigarettes so that I can develop a lung cancer. Okay, so that is elements of different elements which should be there in your hypothesis to say that your hypothesis is complete. You have a complete hypothesis. Okay, now once you go to your hypothesis, once you have a research question, then you have a hypothesis, you need to lay down your aims and objectives of the study. Okay, aim is, what the aim is basically the hypothesis of the research question. Okay, what am I going to find out? What am I going to find out? Whether my mouthwash is better than that mouthwash. That is my aim. Objectives is one by one, how do you reach the aim? What all steps you're going to take and you're going to reach that aim. So you're going to find, like you're going to do that study in some school children, okay, or in elderly public, whatever population you have. Then second thing is, what is your time schedule? How you're going to work on it? How much follow-up period you're going to let down? So all those things will make your aims and objective of the studies. Once that is done, you have to come to study designs. You need to, once you know what you have to do, you have to choose a study design. Now, epidemiological studies can be classified into two major parts. Okay, one is observational study and another is experimental study. Now, what do you mean by observation? As the name suggests, observation. We need not have to do anything. We need not have to put our hands. Investigator cannot just do anything. Just collect the data. Investigator just collects the data, do some statistics and come to some conclusion. Whereas second part is experimental studies. As the name suggests, experiments. Okay, we're experimenting. We're either giving the subject anything or we're removing from the subject something to find out the effect of that particular thing. So those are the experimental studies. So these are two major groups. Now the observational studies can always again can be divided into descriptive and analytical studies. Okay. So descriptive. Now what do you mean by descriptive? As again the name suggests, only the description, only the description, only the surveys. I'm going into the community. I'm just finding out how many children are there, how many adults are there, how many elderly people, who works, who do not work, what is the occupation there, what is the social status there, what is the male is to female ratio there, how many children going to school, not going to school, what is the school water fluoridation status, or what is the water fluoridation status. I'm just collecting the data. How many are literate, illiterate, whatever. So what is their thinking about health services, everything. I'm just collecting the data. That is descriptive. Just descriptive data, getting that data, coming to some percentages and just saying, yes, this community have this much percentage of female, this much percentage of population is literate, this much percentage of population is working, many children are going to school. So only description, that is our descriptive surveys or descriptive studies. The basic studies which will lead you to a hypothesis. These are hypothesis making studies. These do not have any a priori hypothesis. These are hypothesis making studies because you collect the data, then you can find out, yes, this is the thing which is more in this community. Dental caries is more in this community. So what may be the reason? Are those people are illiterate enough to know the importance of hygiene or not? So my hypothesis will be with this, because of the low amount of literacy, there is high amount of dental caries in that particular community. So this is a hypothesis making study. Descriptive studies are basic studies, hypothesis making studies. Okay, the second part of observational study is analytical study. Okay, again, as the name suggests, everywhere the name suggests everything. Analytical, we're actually analyzing things, we're actually putting some statistics. Till now we were just gathering the data. Okay, we're just saying ye tha, ye tha, ye tha, ye tha, ye tha. Okay, now we're actually seeing what is there. We're actually comparing things here. So that is your analytical study. Two major studies which you're gonna study are case control study and cohort study. Okay, so case control study, again as the name suggests, there are some cases, there are some controls. We follow them up over a period of time and get some results. So it is a retrospective study basically. What we do, that means retrospective means it goes from effect to cause. Disease has already happened. So we're going from disease, we're taking some data from the patient retrospectively and we're coming to the cause. So that is your case control study, where we have some cases in that particular, in one group, where we have controls which are exactly similar to cases, except for that they do not have that particular disease. The controls are not having that particular disease, but they are exactly similar as cases. That is your case control study. We are following them up for a period of time and we are getting something through interviews, through investigations, lab investigations, or some details from them, and then we are just collecting the data, analyzing with the help of odds ratio, and we getting some of the results. That is your case control study. Now the next study is cohort study. Cohort is actually pulled down from case control. Okay, it is from the effect to cause. That means the disease has not at all happened. Only the risk factors or whatever positive agents we've identified in case control study, those are there in the population. Now we are going to follow this population over a period of time to find out whether the people who have that particular habit, who have that particular risk factor, will develop that disease in future or not. Okay, so it is the prospective study. We are going to see whether those people who have risk factor will develop that particular disease in future or not. So we again have two groups, test group and control group. In test group we have people who have that risk factor, who have that habit, okay, but they have not developed the disease. Okay, we have control group which is exactly similar to our test group, but here those people do not have those risk factor in their life. That means those people are not smoking cigarette. If you are taking example of a smoking cigarette, so one group will have cigarette smoking people, another group will have non-smoking people, and over a period of time we will just follow them up till they develop a lung cancer. Okay, so what we are going to find out is, if 50 test group mein there are 50 people and 30 have developed lung cancer, whereas in control group there are 50 people, only 1 or 2 of them have directly with the help of statistics we can establish that yes, this is the risk factor for that particular disease. That is about cohort study. So till now you can see that is under observation study. The investigator has not controlled anything. Investigator had not put his hand into but just collected the data. Okay, now we are going towards the experimental studies, right? So as the name suggests, as I've already told you, experiment means investigator have all the control over the studies. Okay, they can either put or remove something out of the normal life of the subject. So that those are the experimental studies. Can be divided into RCTs and non-RCTs, or randomized controlled trials and non-randomized controlled trials. So what do you mean by randomized controlled trials here? Randomized means here every subject has equal chances of to be selected as either test or a control person. Okay, that means randomly they are selected. Investigator cannot say yes, I want this person in test group, I want this person in control group. So they are randomly selected. Second word is controlled. Controlled means what? There is control group that is not controlled. Controlled means the environment is being controlled by the investigator. Okay, here the investigator is controlling environment. What does that mean? He is giving something. He is giving something to the subject to use to find out the effect of that particular drug into his system. Okay, or either the investigator may ask that person to remove something. To remove something means what? Means what if that particular person is having habit of smoking or say mawa chewing. The investigator may ask him to not to chew mawa. Okay, that means removing that normal habit. Okay, so this is about experimental studies, and with the help of statistics we can come to a conclusion. So once you have your research question, hypothesis, aims and objectives, you have to select from all these which is the best study design for your experimentation, whatever experiment you want to do or whatever research you want to do. Once that is selected, next we'll come to a sample and sampling design. So everything is set and done. Now what is the population that we are referring to? That we have already decided in hypothesis that this is going to be my population. So if I am going to do a disease on say adult, okay, adult from 35 to 50 years old in the entire Bhavnagar regarding my pneumococc. Okay, so I cannot have every person in my study. That is not feasible. That is not possible. The timeline will be too much. The money spent will be too much. Manpower will be too much. So what I'll do, I'll rather take a sample. And I'll do my study on them and then extrapolate that research to the entire population. Now sampling is not a new thing. Okay. So when you go to a grain shop, okay, if you want to have 10 kgs of grain, can you see each and every grain and just weigh it and then take 10 kgs of grain to have that quality? What do you do? You have a handful of grains, right? You have a handful of grains, you check the quality. And if you like it, you ask that shopkeeper to give you 10 kgs of grain. What does that mean? That you've chosen that sample. You've analyzed that sample, and if the sample is good, that means the entire population, the entire 10 kgs of grain is good. That's why you said, give me that 10 kgs of grain, right? Or other example, some ladies may know it, some people may not know it. If you cook rice, okay, you cannot just check every grain of rice whether it is cooked or not. What do? You take some 5-6 grains of rice, you check it, okay, you check it, and then you say yes, the entire rice is cooked. You cannot just go and check every grain of rice and say yes, it is cooked. So that is the basic behind sample, basic principle behind sample. So sample is a unit of people which you actually get into your study. Which you actually get into your study, whereas your entire population, it is not possible to take into consideration. So what is sample size? Sample size is derived by statistician with the help of some statistical methods according to your study designs and according to your research. Okay, so what are the advantages of having samples or not having the entire population? It reduces cost, it reduces time required, and it allows thorough investigation of each and every unit of that particular sample, which you cannot do with the entire population. Now there are some sampling methods through which you can take people in or select people once the sample size is derived into your study. So these are the sampling methods. There are two major categories: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Okay, as the name suggests, again, probability. Okay, probability means everybody have equal chances to be selected into that particular research. So that is a probability sampling. Whereas there are some cases where we can use non-probability sampling, where everyone do not have equal chances of getting selected in that particular study. Okay, so probability sampling can be divided into simple, systematic, stratified and cluster, whereas non-probability sampling can be divided into quota, snowball, convenience and purposive sampling. So simple random sampling, what we do is simply we just take whatever sample size is there, we give number to each and every person who's there into that population, and randomly with the lottery method we just remove some lotteries. So simply we just randomly select some people. Another is systematic sample, what we do is we actually take the number of the population, we divide that with our sample size. Okay, for example, if we divide 100 divided by n, and it comes to if our entire population is say 100 and our sample size is 10, what I'll do is 100 divided by 10 is equal to 10. Now what I'll do, I'll select randomly one number from 1 to 10. Say it is 1. Okay, then every kth number, every 10th number will be my sample. That means 1, 11, 21, like that till 91. So I want 10 samples, I'll get that 10 samples systematically by adding some numbers. Then comes stratified sample, where we actually divide them according to strata. So if I am going to do some study in Gujarat, I cannot just go to everybody in Gujarat. So what I'll do, I'll randomly select some states from some districts from Gujarat. That is first strata. Second strata is from those districts, again randomly I'll select some villages or some cities. Okay, that is second strata. So step by step I'm going and selecting. Then again from those particular cities I'll be having some villages. So that is my third strata. Now from those villages I'll be selecting randomly some schools, and from that school randomly I'll be selecting some children. So that is stepwise or stratified sampling method. Third is a cluster sample, where the entire cluster we take into consideration and not the single unit, not the single person. Okay, so if there are small communities like Adivasi communities where people have only 100, 90 or 200 people, we have to take the entire community into consideration, and then we randomize the communities. We do not randomize a single person, but we randomize the entire community. So these are the probability sampling, whereas non-probability sampling methods are convenience. According to your convenience, wherever you get, whenever you get your sample, you just complete the sample size. Second is judgmental, like deliberately select sample to conform to some particular criteria that you have into your research. If you do randomization, you won't get any patients. So according to that criteria only you want patients, so you have a judgmental sampling. Then the quota, because the relevant characteristics are used to segregate the sample to improve its representativeness. That means what? For example, if I take example of Bhamnagar city, if for say example there are ma'am, it is not possible to finish it in half an hour, so much. So there are 40% Hindu people, there are 20% Muslim people, or 20% Christian people, and rest all. So my sample should be representative. That means my sample should be exactly similar to whatever population I have. Okay, so my sample should also contain 40% Hindu people, 20% Muslim people, 20% Christian people, and rest all other. Okay, so that is our quota sampling. And last is snowball sampling. What does that mean? If I take one subject according to my will, I ask that subject to refer somebody else. Okay, that person has referred someone else, that will be counted into my study. Again, this new person will refer somebody else. So that is like snowball, adding up, like reference, adding up, reference, adding up. So that is your snowball sample. So your now we have everything. We have research question, hypothesis, aims and objectives as study design is already decided, and sample size has been determined, and we know how to take our samples, right? So what we will do exactly is, what we will do now, protocol writing, the most important step. Whatever you're going to do, whatever you want to have in your study, you have to write it down. How you're going to go to authorities, how you're going to take their permissions, how you're going to take those sample into your study, how you're going to schedule your study, what you're going to do with those subjects, everything, quick fact, you have to write in protocol, and this protocol has to be submitted to the ethical committee. Okay, this protocol has to be submitted to the ethical committee where it will be reviewed, and until and unless you have a permission from ethical committee, you cannot just go on. So this is very important step. How do you write your protocol? So protocol is a blueprint of the research. Every study needs a careful structured written plan in order to ensure smooth running, successful conclusion, and to gain the compulsory agreement of an ethics committee. Such a plan is called as protocol. So a well-written protocol it is adequate to answer the research question, achieve a study objective, feasible for a particular setup of study, and provides enough details that can allow another investigator to do study and arrive at a comparable conclusion. So this protocol has been submitted to the ethical committee. You have to present it. Whatever corrections they want, you have to do it. Once that is done, once you have approval, then only you can start with the data collection and statistical analysis. Now the part of data collection and statistical analysis will be taken by my fellow colleagues. I'll be stopping here only. Okay, so till this part, I'll just summarize that you have to know the problem in the research, you have to formulate a research question, then you have to convert it into a hypothesis. Once the hypothesis is there, you need to know what kind of study design you need to have and the sample size determination. Once you know how do you get your sample, from where you get your sample, you have to write the protocol, submit it to the ethical committee, and just get the approval. Once that is done, then only you can actually start with your research. This is all formalities previously you have to fulfill. Okay, so I'll just skip this brain warmer session. I'll just say thank you so much. Be curious, not judgmental. Being curious will make you scientist, and judgmental won't make you anywhere. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.